Ya le puse.
Well, we're going to talk about the Israel and Palestine conflict. And, well, at first I'm going to talk about the origin. Well, the conflict basically started in 1948. As an Ireland, India, and Cyprus, British colonial divide and rule tactics culminated in November 1947 in the partition of Palestine into two newly independent states, one Palestinian Arab and one Jewish. UN resolution allowed Jews, who were less than one-third of the population and owned only 8% of the land, 50% of the territory of Palestine. Palestinians saw the partition plan as grave injustice, especially since most Jews in Palestine were recent arrivals. Fighting broke out between Jewish forces and local Palestinian militaries.
Ya.
In 1967, Israel occupied the West Bank, Gaza East, Jerusalem, and the Syrian Golan, putting Israel in possession of the remaining 22% of historical Palestine. In 1987, Palestinians began a popular uprising of Intifada for self-determination in an independent Palestinian state.
The mass support from Palestinians across town and village, as well as across social divisions, is a distinctive characteristic of intifadas. In the periods of rule, that there are many failed attempts to call for an uprising that generally have seen big demonstrations break out about fade away over time in the face of security forces. Response. The Western-backed Palestinian Security Force run by Mahmoud Abbas, active in ensuring the West Bank remains largely free of arms caches and active terrorist cells. Israeli security, border, and other tight border controls have eliminated the arms smuggling that powered the first and second intifadas. The main objectives of intifadas are 1. Greater national self-confidence, empower unity. 2. An improved international image. 3. National adoption of effective non-lethal mass civil disobedience. 4. Turning the occupied territories into economic liabilities for the Israelis. 5. Polarizing the Israeli society on the Palestinian question. 6. Forcing the dispatch of large number of Israeli soldiers to engage unarmed Palestinians. 7. Giving the Palestinians leverage in negotiations, causing King Hussein and Jordan to give up the claim for the West Bank. And 9. Forcing the Palestine Liberation Organization to take earlier reject action.
There are three wars in which Israel and Arab appear. One of them is the Yom Kippur War. It took place in Syria and Egypt in 1973. The 6th of October, and it ended in the 25th of October. The war began with Arab coalition, and it ended when the Arabs win. The second war was the 6-Day War. It is also known as the June War. It took place in 1977, and it's between Arab and Israeli. They fought in June 5 and the war ended in June 10. The relations between Israel and its neighbor had never fully normalized following the 1988 Arab-Israeli War. The Egyptians, whose defense infrastructure was in poor state, were helped by surprising and virtually the entire Egyptian force was destroyed with few Israeli losses.
Ya.
The final war is the War of Attrition. It took place in 1976 and it ended in 1970. The war was 6-Day War, and it's known as the Egyptian and Israeli final war because it took 6-Day war, but It lasts a year between the army and the forces of Israeli taking place in Iraq. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, known as PLO, is an organization founded in 1964 with the purpose of the liberation of Palestine through armed struggle. The PLO was considered by United Nations and Israel a terrorist organization until the Madrid Conference in 1991. The PLO primary objective was to gain the lands handed by the United Nations to Israel. The PLO's impact and recent Middle East history has been marked. Yasser Arafat was a Palestinian leader. He was chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization, known as PLO, president of the Palestine National Authority, and leader of the Fatah political party and former paramilitary group which he founded in 1959. Hamas is a Palestinian Islamic organization with an associated military wing. In the Palestinian terrorists and elsewhere in the Middle East, including Qatar, Hamas is designated as a terrorist organization by the European Union, Canada, Israel, Egypt, Japan, and the United Nations. And other countries such as Russia, Iraq, Qatar, Brazil haven't designated this organization as a terrorist one. Hezbollah, known as Party of Allah or Party of God, is an Islamic militant group and political party based in Lebanon. Hezbollah's paramilitary wing is the Jihad Council. After the death of Abbas al-Massoudi in 1992, the group has been headed by Hassan Nasrallah, its Secretary General.
Israeli Armed Forces. The Israeli Armed Forces is one of Israeli society's most prominent institutions, influencing the country's economy, culture, and political scene. They consist of the ground forces, air force, and navy. Benjamin Netanyahu is the current Prime Minister of Israel. He also currently serves as a member of the Knesset and chairman of the Likud party. Netanyahu joined the Israel Defense Forces shortly after the Six-Day War in 1967 and became a team leader in the Sayarit Matkal Special Forces Unit.
The conflict between Israel and the Palestinians continues against the backdrop of resurgent violence elsewhere in the Middle East. Americans reacted with the anger and the horror of recently grisly spectacle of the beheadings of two American journalists by the Islamic State, the Sunni extremist group that seeks to establish an Islamic caliphate in Syria and Iraq.